Hi everybody, this is Kevin and welcome back to another comic book review. Today we're going to look at Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. And this was a 6-issue miniseries basically showing Spider-Man's life from the 1960s to the modern day. So for every issue you have a decade. You had the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. And it shows Spider-Man from a college student all the way to being an adult and being a father and all these great things. So I just read it the other day and read the whole thing in one sitting. It was great. I heard nothing but good things about it when it came out, and so I decided I gotta take a look at it here and really showcase what was going on. So you had Chip Zdarsky writing it and Mark Bagley. Mark Bagley did a lot of good Spider-Man stuff back in the day. Chip Zdarsky is one of the great modern Marvel writers. And starts out in the 60s, and this is Spider-Man as a college student. And it has some, you got a nice splash page there, it looks great. And it starts off in the 60s, and they're basically protesting the Vietnam War here. And he's with Gwen Stacy in this, and you got Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn. And the main thing with this issue is the fact that they're talking about the war. And they're going to send Captain America to the war because Iron Man's already there fighting. And so Captain America is going to go there next. And Flash is actually enlisting in the draft. Flash Thompson. And if you know about the Spider-Man books, Flash Thompson and Peter Parker, kind of go back and forth. But Flash Thompson really admires Spider-Man. And Peter's talking to Flash Thompson and basically says, I enlisted in the war because of you, because of Spider-Man. And it really hits Peter hard, and then there's this little fight here with the Green Goblin, and all sorts of stuff. And actually, the Green Goblin, after the fight, has amnesia and forgets what's going on. So, you have that. And then you just have this little scene here where Captain America's fighting bad guys, and Peter Parker goes in there, and Captain America's saying he has mixed feelings on the war, but he's going to go anyway and see it firsthand, and see if he can save people and make a difference. And it gives Spider-Man some confidence in what to do. So you have all this, and the love dynamic with Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. And then it actually ends here with the soldiers fighting a year later in Vietnam, still fighting. And they get attacked, and one of them says, "Oh, traitor!" And because they're going to shoot some civilians. And then Captain America says they're under my protection. And basically, later on, Captain America goes on saying that he's just in it to save lives. He's not killing any lives, and he's saving lives on both sides. So it's really a thought-provoking issue right there. And there's some good and bad in here. I really enjoyed the beginning issues. Towards the end, it gets a little silly, but the beginning issues are really good. And you see the characters, have the hairstyle of the 70s. You got the little disco ball. And this is 1977, and you see Flash Thompson died, and he died in the war. And Peter Parker is just reflecting, saying, he only died because of me, because Flash was talking to Peter Parker, saying that he joined the Vietnam War because of Spider-Man. He was inspired by Spider-Man. So Peter Parker has this sort of guilt that it's his fault. And then you see in the newspaper, this is 10 years later, and they're still in the Vietnam War. And they're talking about how Captain America's on the run, and because of Iron Man, you have Iron Man now, and you have Giant Man fighting in the war, and Captain America is basically just saving civilians, and he's not taking a side, and he's just saving any innocents, especially the children who don't deserve to die. So then over here you have Doc Ock and Reed Richards, and Norman Osborn's in jail. So Peter Parker basically sent him to jail, even though he has amnesia, but he slowly, as he's sitting there thinking, he remembers things, and that he's the Green Goblin. And you see Spider-Man's suit change a little bit. And overall, the art in this is really great. You have at the club here at the disco, you have Mary Jane with Harry Osborn. She looks great. And, there's a sort of love triangle going on with them. You can probably tell. You got Reed Richards, older. And, Spider-Man's having a confrontation with him, and eventually Harry Osborn puts on the Black Goblin suit and is going out there attacking and causing all sorts of destruction, trying to vindicate his father. And it turns out they have clones here of Harry, Gwen, and Peter Parker. And it's revealed that Gwen Stacy is actually the clone, and the real Gwen Stacy is in the tube. And with the Black Goblin's destruction here, ends up destroying every clone except for the clone of Peter Parker, which was the only one he could save. And it was just total chaos and destruction, and Peter's just distraught by the fact that the real Gwen Stacy's dead. And this is the clone Peter Parker now with, the clone Gwen Stacy, who Peter thought was the real Gwen Stacy. It's a little bit of a tongue twister and a mind scramble there, but interesting nonetheless. And so Peter Parker is ending up with Mary Jane because, that was bound to happen, and at that point Harry was insane. So then you have the 80s here, and Mary Jane's pregnant with 2 kids. And you see here, this is a great transition to showcase the Secret Wars. And you see all the heroes, 1984, you see all the heroes fighting. You got Thor, you got Reed Richards, you got Nightcrawler, Wolverine, She-Hulk, regular Hulk, Captain America, Doctor Doom. There's just too many to count. It's all the characters from the Secret Wars doing battle. And all sorts of stuff. And you see Spider-Man's getting even older here. This is 84, so what's he got to be in his 40s in this, at least, right? 30s or 40s. And an older Reed Richards there. And you got Thor and Hulk. And basically, Spider-Man's saying how he's getting older and he can't do this anymore. And Thor's saying if they use this machine, it'll grant you power. And what it does is it gives Spider-Man the symbiote, which gives him the black suit or the symbiote venom suit or whatever. And while it does make him more powerful, what the symbiote suit has always done is it drives him a little crazy. So you have the kids being born, and then Vision's out there stopping these atomic bombs and missiles from the Russians. And, they have the little political undertones there, but it's current with the times, and it makes sense, the Cold War and that sort of thing. And so Spider-Man is he's going to give up the symbiote suit because it's just getting into his head too much, and he doesn't want the power to get too crazy. So he sends the symbiote suit off, and it turns out there's all these other imposters dressing up as black suit Spider-Mans actually causing real violence. And you got this guy at the gun here, who actually turns out to be Kraven the Hunter. And he's out there, and, it's an old Spider-Man villain doing battle, and he finally kills Peter Parker. He's like, I finally hunted you, I finally got you. And he's dead. He's buried. So, Mary Jane and Aunt May are all distraught, and he calls upon the symbiote suit. The symbiote suit is looking for him and goes back into the grave and, brings him back from the dead, more or less, because it's so powerful. So that's where it gets a little wonky, in my opinion, but overall, it's still very enjoyable. So he goes after Kraven the Hunter, defeats Kraven. Mary Jane's watching now, and that's it. And then Peter Parker just ends there. So then you have the 90s. And these are all the covers, mind you. They were very, they all went with the times, and it was very interesting. So here you have Doc Ock, who is all, you see how old he is there. And basically, in the story, Doc Ock marries Aunt May, and she's dead, and he just goes back to his evil ways because of that. You got Jessica Jones there. Lots of good references. Like I said, the art is very good. So he's battling Doc Ock and whatnot, and typical Spider-Man story. And then he's got the cloned Peter Parker. And Doc Ock's just trying to take over the world again and really take back his life. Because in the years where he was married to Aunt May, he put the life of crime away and lost out on his opportunities, he thought, to pursue his scientific advances. So then Harry Osborn comes in and gets in the way and ends up getting attacked, and all sorts of crazy stuff happened. And either way, then it goes to Norman Osborn, old man Norman Osborn, and he's still thinking, and he knows Peter Parker's Spider-Man, and he's distraught that Harry Osborn's dead, and it's this sort of very emotional scene where, he's helpless. And he ends up dying too. And really, this is the part where it kind of lost me, because it gets to a very depressing despair. And I get it's showing the age and everything, but I feel like everyone's just dying now. And when I think of Spider-Man, I always think of like Spider-Man Peter Parker being at least a high school, college student, and always being optimistic. And you really see the death and despair of everyone leaving his life. And he goes back home with his kids, with Mary Jane, hoping to live out the rest of his days there. But we still got a couple more decades. So now we're in the 2000s. And 2006, and Spider-Man is old and frail and weak. And there's sort of a power struggle with Tony Stark trying to get Parker Industries for his own monetary gain. And this ties into the Civil War storyline. So you eventually have a couple factions here. They're trying to take over Parker Industries and telling Peter Parker you got to register under the Axe. And then you have Captain America's faction of heroes, Cloak and Dagger. Look at Luke Cage looking really old, and Hawkeye looking pretty old there too. And they do a big standoff against Tony Stark and She-Hulk, and it looks like Captain Marvel and a bunch of other heroes. And meanwhile, there's this guy attacking Peter Parker's wife and kids. So he's got to get there in time, and of course he does. Some nice action scenes here. And he's there to save the day. And like I said, the Civil War, and Captain America saying, I'm always going to be the captain, and I'm going to stand for what's right no matter what it is. I should really do a little look through of Civil War again. I haven't read that in a while. I do own it. That's another great current run. There's a lot of good runs from the late 2000s to early 2010s. I think Civil War came out in 2006, which was really good. So then you have, this is the final issue here, the 2010s, 2019. So this was when this book came out. I think it came out just last year. So here you have Spider-Man teaming up with Miles Morales, and they're going in space, do all sorts of crazy stuff. And then freaking Kraven's back here as Venom Kraven the Hunter, and he's there attacking. And like I said, I'd say the first four, 60, 70, 80, 90, they were really good. And then the 2000 and 2010, I didn't really like that much, to be honest with you, but here it is anyway. So he's battling Kraven, and he kind of blacks out there. And he's thinking of all the other villains that he fought in his life, featuring Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, Venom, Rhino, Vulture, and Electro. And he does one last battle with all his old villains and regains the he sees Aunt May, and that basically wakes him from his little head bump there. And he's there. He saves Miles Morales. He's thinking of Mary Jane and all the positive things. And basically, he sacrifices himself so that Miles Morales can go back and be the new Spider-Man. So overall, I like, here's all the variant covers. I did like it. Like I said, I like the first four issues the best. And I get where they're going there to try and push more people to do for the Miles Morales Spider-Man character, but I always enjoy Peter Parker more. Look at that variant cover with Mary Jane from the 80s. Really cool. The 90s. Yeah, they really fit the year there. That looks like a 90s comic cover right there. 2000s. Oh, that's cool with the Kraven Venom. I think these covers were done by Chip Zdarsky. And these are all the covers when you're buying the single issues. This one I did the Vietnam War, the 70s in disco, the 80s in the Cold War, and the gravestone, the 90s of him looking at the clone, the 2000s, kind of reminiscent of Civil War, and then the 2010s with Miles Morales. So, very good. These are Nick Spencer's current Spider-Man runs. I think Nick Spencer's still doing Spider-Man. I've heard that's pretty good. And then the front here, you have the advertisement for Chip Zdarsky's Spectacular Spider-Man from the early 2010s. So overall, I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the first four issues the best. The second two are kind of less so. But overall, great pickup. I believe it's only $25. $25. You can get this on in-stock trades for like half price. I think I paid like $12 or $13 for it. That's the place to go to get trade paperbacks or support your local comic shop. But I'm doing enough of that with buying the single issues. at least buy the trades online. So anyway, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon. I'll be doing the single issue books again. I just wanted to showcase this one book because I just finished reading it and it was fresh in my head. I really enjoyed it. You know, the art, like I said, is great. My favorite shot is, where was it? It's in the beginning here. Just Spider-Man right here, yeah. Just, you know, classic 1966 Spider-Man just flying around. And I really did like that Secret Wars double-page spread right there, showing all the heroes from the Secret Wars. Very nice. Mark Bagley's a pro. I don't know if he's doing anything right now, but he's done a lot of good Spider-Man books from the 90s and plenty of other books, I'm sure. I'm sure if we can look them up. So thanks for watching, everyone. This has gone on far enough, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.